Chosen one. Have you felt it lately? That deep pull in your spirit? That holy restlessness that won't let you be comfortable anymore? You've been searching, praying, discerning, and yet nothing feels complete. That's because heaven has issued a divine summons. Your next mission is not about others. It's about meeting with God. This message is not for everyone. If you are not chosen, you won't understand the urgency in these words. But if you are God's chosen, if you've been marked through prophetic dreams, angelic visitations, and spiritual encounters, then listen closely. This is your moment. This is your call into divine alignment. God is not asking for your next move. He's asking for your attention, not your performance, your presence. Because before He releases you into your next assignment, He wants to meet with you face to face in the secret place, in the silence, in the fire of communion, where real authority is born. Chosen one, this encounter will change you. It will clarify what's been confusing. It will set fire to what's been cold. It will elevate what's been hidden. And if you feel this word reaching into your soul, comment 999 below as a sign of your agreement. Subscribe, tap the bell icon, and share this with another chosen one who needs to hear. Your next mission is to meet with God. The inner summons. When God calls you to Himself, chosen one. Before every divine assignment, there is a call. But this one is different. It's not a call to act. It's a call to abide. Not a command to go out, but an invitation to come in. God is not sending you to a platform first. He is summoning you into His presence. When heaven wants to mark a vessel for divine use, the first step is never public. It's deeply personal. The call to meet with God comes quietly, but it comes with fire. This kind of spiritual pull is not something you can manufacture. It shows up as a restlessness in your spirit. You begin to feel like something is off, though nothing is visibly wrong. What once felt fulfilling now feels hollow. The conversations, the activities, even the spiritual routines, you sense they are no longer enough. And that's the clue. That's how the Spirit begins to call. You are not being lazy. You are not distracted. You are being summoned. God is awakening a deeper hunger within you. And this hunger is not for more results, more influence, or more affirmation. It's a hunger for Him, for clarity, for closeness, for communion. And the truth is, this hunger is an announcement from heaven that a new encounter is near. He is drawing you, not for performance, but for proximity. He's not asking you to speak yet. He's asking you to sit, chosen one. There is a pattern in Scripture. God always calls His chosen ones inward before He sends them outward. Before Moses ever stood before Pharaoh, he stood barefoot before a burning bush. Before Elijah ever called fire from heaven, he stood alone in a cave, listening for the still, small voice. Even Jesus, before stepping into His public ministry, went into the wilderness alone to meet with the Father. Every true spiritual leader begins not on a platform, but in a private encounter. You may feel like you're in between seasons, not fully where you used to be, and not quite where you're going. That's not confusion. That's divine positioning. You're standing at the threshold of intimacy. God is saying, before I give you more to carry, I need to give you more of me. And if you're honest, you can feel that it's been stirring deep beneath the surface. The silence you're hearing isn't distance, it's a signal. The quiet is not absence, it's invitation. And here's what's most important. This type of call doesn't come with fanfare. It doesn't come with angels shouting or people confirming. It comes like a whisper that won't leave you alone, like a question that keeps echoing in your spirit. When was the last time you truly met with God? Not just talked to Him, not just prayed out of routine, but truly encountered Him, felt His presence press upon your soul, heard His voice sharpen your purpose, wept in silence because your heart was pierced by His nearness. This is not a normal call. This is a holy summons. God is calling you to come closer, to unplug, to retreat, to separate yourself from the familiar, so that He can reveal the unfamiliar depths of His Spirit. This is where alignment happens. This is where confusion breaks. This is where assignment is clarified. It's not about working harder. It's about getting closer. Chosen one. If you skip this summons, you risk moving with yesterday's oil. You risk leading with outdated instructions. But if you obey this moment, if you answer this invisible pull with full surrender, God will meet you in a way that changes everything. The hunger you feel is holy. The discomfort is divine. Your spirit already knows something is shifting. And that shift begins with this. You must meet with God. So make space, make silence, make time. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for external confirmation. Your spirit knows what your schedule doesn't. Heaven is calling. And if you feel this word tugging on your chest, say it out loud. Lord, I hear you. I'm coming to meet you. That's all He needs to begin the encounter, because your next assignment won't be found in activity. It will be found in intimacy. And your next mission is to meet with God. Sacred separation. Why God pulls you away before He shows up? Chosen one. There is something sacred about separation. Not isolation that wounds, but holy separation that prepares. Before every divine encounter, God initiates a pulling away, a spiritual distancing from the noise, the crowd, and even the familiar. And though it can feel painful, even confusing, it is deeply intentional, because before God shows up in glory, He sets apart the vessel. You are that vessel. When you begin to feel disconnected from the usual rhythms, when conversations that once gave you comfort now feel shallow, when your spirit begins craving solitude, you are not being punished. You are being prepared. God is getting ready to reveal something that only stillness can hold. He is creating space within you to carry more of Him. And He can't fill what is already crowded. Think about Moses. Before the burning bush encounter, he spent 40 years in the wilderness. Not lost, prepared. God took him away from Egypt, away from the palace, away from influence, to teach him how to hear in silence. The desert stripped him of noise, identity, and distraction. And it was there in isolation that he heard the voice of I am chosen one. Your wilderness isn't rejection, it's recalibration. God doesn't call people into holy missions until He has first walked with them through holy separation. You must unlearn the language of the world to receive the language of the Spirit. You must detox from human validation so you can clearly hear divine instruction. This is not a pause in your progress. It is the preparation of your purpose. Separation also breaks dependency. You were never meant to rely on crowds, affirmations, or noise to feel spiritually alive. God is teaching you to live by His voice alone. That's why He's pulled you away from voices that once meant everything to you. That's why relationships are shifting. That's why you feel spiritually sensitive to distractions you used to tolerate. He is getting your attention. And here's the mystery. Many chosen ones don't recognize the separation as sacred. They think something is wrong. They try to return to old places. They run back to the crowd. But doing so only delays the encounter. Because God does not reveal His glory in chaos. He reveals Himself in consecration. In this season, you are being consecrated, set apart, marked, sealed. This is why the invitations have stopped, why the phone is quieter, why the door you expected didn't open. God is closing every access point that would distract you from meeting with Him. It's not rejection, it's divine redirection. Remember Elijah, when he fled to the cave in fear and exhaustion? God didn't appear in the earthquake or the fire or the storm. He came in a still small voice. But that voice required Elijah to stand alone on the mountain. No crowd, no echo, just the whisper of heaven to a surrendered man. Chosen one, you are in that same place. God is whispering now. But you must separate to hear it. You must be willing to lose what is loud in order to receive what is holy. And that's not always easy. It means walking away from what's good to receive what's God. It means letting go of familiar comfort so you can carry fresh glory. You might not even realize that the separation has already begun. That internal ache you feel, that craving for stillness, that sense of being out of place everywhere except in silence. That's the Spirit pulling you closer. Don't resist it. Don't explain it away. Embrace it. Because on the other side of separation is visitation. God is not wasting your solitude. He is shaping you in it. He is removing distractions, cleansing your spirit, and sharpening your ears. What He wants to say to you cannot be heard in crowded rooms or busy timelines. It can only be heard in sacred separation. That's where revelation flows. That's where clarity lands. That's where fire descends. So don't rush through this part. Don't despise the silence. Lean into it. Because when God pulls you away, it's because He's about to show up in a way that will leave you forever changed. Chosen one. This is your divine appointment. And heaven is waiting for you to honor the space God has created for Himself in your life. The mission ahead requires clarity. And clarity comes after separation, the place of encounter, finding the space where God meets you. Chosen one. One of the greatest misunderstandings about encountering God is the belief that it only happens in churches or during powerful gatherings. But if you truly study the lives of those God called and commissioned, you'll notice something sacred. They met God in unexpected places, in deserts, on mountaintops, in caves, on quiet hillsides. The common denominator wasn't location, it was posture. God doesn't need a holy building to meet you. He needs a holy space within you that's willing, open, and ready. Every chosen one must learn this. Before you can find the place of outward impact, you must first find the place of inward encounter. It's not just about the physical location, it's about the condition of your spirit. That secret place with God isn't always about shutting yourself into a room. It's about tuning your heart into a frequency that the world can't hear. It's a realm where your spirit meets His voice without filters, noise, or performance. And once you find that place, you carry it with you. There is a reason God often draws His chosen into solitude before He reveals His glory. It's because silence amplifies His whisper. The world tries to meet God through volume and excitement, but heaven responds to stillness. When you are able to shut off the distractions, the scrolling, the obligations, and even the good spiritual noise, something powerful happens. God begins to speak, not loudly, but deeply, not to your ears, but to your inner man. Chosen one, your place of encounter must become your priority, not your backup plan. You cannot expect to carry divine revelation while neglecting divine intimacy. Too many walk into battles having skipped the altar. Too many speak for God without having spoken with God. That's why heaven is calling you back to the meeting place. And it starts by creating space even in the mundane. Your altar doesn't have to look like ancient stone. It can be the corner of your room, the seat of your car, or a quiet walk in the morning. What matters is that you're present, and God is invited. Consider the tent of meeting that Moses pitched outside the camp. While Israel stayed in the noise, Moses went outside the crowd to meet God. Scripture says, God spoke to him face to face as a friend speaks to a friend. That's the level of intimacy God is inviting you into. Not distant, not formal, not religious, but relational and alive. But just like Moses, you must step outside the crowd to find it. Sometimes your tent of meeting will require you to miss out on things others enjoy. It will cost you time, convenience, even companionship. But what you gain in exchange is worth more than anything you give up. In the place of encounter, you receive clarity, you receive boldness, you receive assignments straight from the throne, and most importantly, you receive God Himself. When Jacob wrestled with the angel, it was not in a temple. It was by a riverbank in the dark of night. That place became sacred because it was where heaven touched earth through desperation. That's all God needs. A surrendered heart and a willingness to hold on until He blesses you. And just like Jacob, you may walk away limping, but you'll also walk away with a new name, a new identity, and a new level of spiritual authority. Chosen one. You've been busy looking for answers in action, but the answers are waiting in your altar. You've been trying to solve things in motion, but God is calling you back to the stillness. He wants to meet you in the garden, like He did with Adam. He wants to speak with you in the cliff of the rock, like He did with Moses. But He won't force the meeting. He waits for your invitation, your intentionality, your expectation. There is power in routine, but there is transformation in encounter. Don't confuse spiritual habits with spiritual hunger. Don't let your devotions become mechanical. Let them become magnetic, pulling you into deeper dimensions of God's heart. It's not about how much time you spend. It's about how present your spirit is when you do. Build a space that welcomes Him. Whether it's 5 minutes or an hour, let it be sacred. Light a candle. Put away distractions. Speak less and listen more. Worship not to impress Him, but to make your spirit ready to receive Him. And when you come boldly, not as a beggar, but as a beloved child who knows the Father longs to meet with them. And here's the truth. Once you find that space, once you encounter God in that place, everything around you begins to shift. Your discernment sharpens. Your peace deepens. Your direction becomes clear. You no longer chase validation. You carry confirmation. The room may look the same, but you will not. The circumstances may not change overnight, but your spirit will be completely reoriented, because in that place, you've touched the throne. And once you've tasted the presence of God deeply, nothing else satisfies again. This is what heaven is inviting you into. Not obligation, not religious pressure, but divine relationship rooted in real, regular encounter. Chosen one. If your heart is stirring as you read this, don't delay. Create your place. Find your corner. Return to your tent. Because your next revelation, your next assignment, your next level of power, it's all waiting in the place of encounter, divine visitation. What happens when God shows up? Chosen one. Nothing changes a life more permanently than a divine visitation. When God Himself shows up, everything around you may remain the same, but you will never be the same. It is not imagination. It is not emotion. It is reality colliding with eternity. And when heaven touches earth in this way, every fiber of your being knows you have just stood in the presence of the Almighty. Divine visitation is not random. It is intentional. It is heaven responding to a heart that has been postured in reverence, expectation, and readiness. The presence of God doesn't invade careless spaces. It inhabits consecrated ones. When your spirit becomes hungry enough, When your atmosphere becomes clean enough, when your heart becomes tender enough, God steps in, not with a whisper, but with weight. And his weight changes everything. In a divine visitation, you don't just feel God, you are overwhelmed by him. Your pride is silenced. Your distractions are burned away. You become painfully aware of your smallness, and yet deeply secure in your choseness. That's the paradox. When God visits, he reduces your flesh and amplifies your spirit. You begin to see through his eyes. You begin to hear what you couldn't hear before. You receive insight that no sermon, no mentor, and no book could ever give you. Chosen one. Divine visitation is not about religious experience, it's about divine transaction. Something is deposited in you that you didn't have before. It may be a mantle, it may be a message, it may be a mission. But whatever it is, it comes with fire. And that fire will change the way you move, think, speak, and discern. After visitation, you become a vessel that carries evidence. Take Isaiah, for example. When he saw the Lord high and lifted up with angels crying, "Holy, holy, holy," he didn't walk away with a goosebump. He walked away with a commission. Who shall I send, and who will go for us? And Isaiah, still trembling from glory, said, "Here I am. Send me." That is what divine visitation does. It calls you into divine responsibility. Moses met God at the burning bush. It was not a dream. It was not a fleeting moment. It was a divine interruption, a visitation that redefined the rest of his life. He didn't go looking for it, but his spirit was positioned for it. And when God spoke, Moses didn't just receive instructions, he received an entirely new identity. From shepherd to deliverer, from wanderer to prophet. That's what happens when God shows up. You're no longer who you were. There's a weight to divine presence that the world cannot imitate. It doesn't entertain. It transforms, and it leaves you with a holy ache, a longing for more of him that nothing else can satisfy. Some people spend years seeking spiritual thrills and never change, but one real visitation from God can accomplish in seconds what decades of striving never could. Chosen one. You must understand this. Divine visitations are sacred gifts, but they come with holy disruption. When God visits, he confronts everything. Your sin, your comfort, your false identities, your distractions. But he doesn't confront to condemn. He confronts to purify. He steps into your space, not to comfort your complacency, but to ignite your calling. You may weep uncontrollably, you may tremble, you may fall silent, or you may burst into praise that you cannot control. However it manifests, you will know God was here. And that moment becomes a memorial in your spirit forever. A reference point, a line in your story that divides everything into before God visited and after God visited. And here's the key. While you cannot force a visitation, you can prepare for one. Hunger prepares you, holiness prepares you, humility prepares you. You don't chase the feeling, you chase the face. You remove the distractions. You turn your heart toward heaven. You wait with expectation, not entitlement. And God, when he sees a spirit that truly longs for him, will draw near in ways that defy explanation. Sometimes he visits in the stillness of the night. Sometimes in the middle of your worship. Sometimes in the quiet tears you cry alone. But however he comes, he brings clarity. And you'll know this was not just a feeling. This was the King. Divine visitation also marks you for visibility. When you've been with God, people don't just see you, they see evidence. Your words carry weight. Your presence shifts atmospheres. You become a living altar. People can sense the oil, not because you're loud, but because you've been lit by heaven. You don't need to announce yourself. Your authority announces you because God's presence leaves residue. After Moses encountered God on Mount Sinai, his face literally shone with glory, so much so that people couldn't even look at him without fear. That wasn't charisma, that was consequence. The consequence of real divine visitation is transformation that cannot be undone. Chosen one. If you've been feeling a spiritual dryness lately, it's not because God left. It's because your spirit is longing for deeper encounter. Don't settle for spiritual routines when God is inviting you into revelation. Don't be satisfied with inspiration when He wants to give you impartation. He wants to visit you, and He is looking for those who will make room. So clean the room, clean the altar, clean the schedule, make space for the weight of God. Not for a moment, but for a visitation that alters your entire path. And when He comes, don't rush. Don't move too quickly. Stay as long as He stays. Linger. Listen. Be still. Because in that moment, heaven is touching earth, and your life will never be the same. Chosen one, if your spirit is stirred, if you feel the weight of this word, type God, visit me in the comments as a declaration of readiness. Let it be a prophetic response to the invitation. Because your next level doesn't begin with action. It begins with visitation. When God speaks, receiving and handling divine instructions. Chosen one. When God speaks, it's not just to impress you, it's to assign you. Heaven never speaks without purpose. Every word from God is a seed that carries instruction, direction, or correction. The question is not whether God will speak. The question is, will you recognize His voice, and will you obey? Hearing God is not a privilege reserved for prophets and pastors. It is the inheritance of every chosen one. Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice." That means if you are chosen, you have the capacity to hear Him. But hearing God clearly requires more than just ears. It requires posture, purity, and practice. Many people miss God's voice because they expect thunder, but He often comes in a whisper. Like Elijah in the cave, you must tune your spirit to the frequency of heaven. God may speak through scripture, through dreams, through prophetic impressions, or even through silence. The key is not how He speaks, but that your spirit is listening. Chosen one. This is not the season for passive listening. When God speaks, you must write it down, pray over it, and ask Him how to apply it. Divine instructions are not suggestions. They are blueprints. They carry timelines. They carry consequences. They carry favor, but only for those who handle them with reverence. Consider Noah. God didn't just tell him a flood was coming. He gave specific dimensions for the ark. Every measurement mattered. If Noah had altered the plan even slightly, the ark wouldn't have survived. The survival of his family depended on precision. That's the nature of divine instructions. They are exact, and obedience must be complete, not partial. When God speaks to you, don't rush to share it. First, sit with it. Let it settle in your spirit. Not every word is meant for public release. Some are meant to marinate in silence until the appointed time. Mary, the mother of Jesus, received divine instructions from the angel Gabriel. But Scripture says she pondered these things in her heart. That's wisdom. God's timing matters just as much as His message. There's also a difference between revelation and instruction. Revelation shows you what God is doing. Instruction tells you what you must do. One feeds your spirit, the other governs your steps. Never confuse the two, chosen one. Many are excited by revelation, but few are ready to submit to instruction. Yet, it is those who obey that become the vessels of impact. Sometimes God's instructions won't make sense. They may feel risky. They may seem opposite to logic.